Ever since I bought Star Citizen, I've been looking for that perfect daily driver. The ship that's fast enough to get from point A to point B that you don't feel like you're really being held back, but at the same time, something that holds enough cargo that you can actually grab a couple of missions on your way in either direction. I'm allowing, of course. With the Anvil Asgard that was just released, I think that might actually be the ship. So let's dive in and see what it looks like. So to me, the perfect daily driver is a ship that has an SCM speed somewhere around 200. I also want something that can hold between, I'd say 150 to 200 SCU of cargo, just because it seems like I always am moving that cargo, whether it be for cargo missions or bounties or whatever that happens to be. But something that I don't really feel super constrained or it being too small, but that it's actually still pretty fast. Now, obviously, it kind of goes without saying that it's got to be something that is a soloable ship. I mean, it is my daily driver. And something where if I do find myself in a hairy situation, I can still fight my way out of it. I'm not the best combat pilot in the world, so I do need a ship that's got some decent defenses as well. And really, that's a hell of an ask, to be honest. I have never actually found the perfect daily driver ship for me in Star Citizen. I kind of go between the Constellation Taurus and the 350 from Origin. Now, I love the speed of the 350. It's really nice that you can kind of zip around here, there, but you have no cargo space. The Taurus, on the other hand, has the cargo space. I can throw a medical Ursa in the back if I actually need a respawn point or medical facilities. But I really don't like the way that it flies, and specifically, I don't like the way that it lands. The head bob gets to me. What can I say? That really brings us to the Anvil Asgard, a new ship that was just recently released at Invictus 2955. Just a couple of notable things that I saw on the outside as I was speaking earlier here. You actually have buttons on both sides of the back doors to open this nice, beautiful cargo ramp. That's a huge win. I love that. You also have on the side entries, you actually have a step so you can get out and in from the side entries you'll see in a second here. So first up along the left-hand side in the cargo bay, you've got some fuses. Over here, you've got some cooler access. Next up, you've got the battery access, which aren't in games yet, but I'm sure they're coming soon. Now, over on the right-hand side, you've got the radar and shield access. Then you have another shield access beside that, followed by a fire extinguisher. So along the left-hand side here, now this is that meant to be a drop ship kind of thing, but essentially this is where your crew or your people can get in and out. You do have two guns to defend the doors, which is always handy. You have two different internal storages, both located on this level. Nothing upstairs yet. You do actually have a button to open the airlock along the ladder. Now the reason I point this out is because that is actually a death trap. Like beheads you when you go up the ladder sometimes. It's kind of funny. So over on the right hand side, this is that second internal storage that you get. Now the only internal storage you have in this ship is actually on this level, which is a little weird, but it's okay. So here you've got more cooler access. Sometimes buttons are a little finicky, but here you've got power plant and another shield. Now moving into the front on the lower level, you've actually got life support access, which again isn't in game, as well as some more fuses. Now here is your quantum drive access, I believe it is. And then this is your lower front chin turret as well. So that's just in the testing that I've done. You've actually got some pretty good oomph behind this, and I find it quite easy to use. It just seems it's very stable. It's easy to track your targets, and you've got some really great visibility pretty much all underneath the ship. Now, if you're coming into a hot zone, this would absolutely help you take out some of those targets on the ground before you actually land. Over here, we've got gravity, which again doesn't exist in game yet. Now, along the center console, you actually have on the other side, you've got an engineering console. There's your engineering console or terminal. And you've actually got 2 jump seats. It's a little bit strange because it's only a 1 to 2 person ship, but whatever works. There's some more component access in this level. Now, the thing that's nice about this ship is all of your component access is actually located on the lower level. And you have a separate airlock between where you're normally, where your players normally are, whereas your cargo and components that can catch fire. I also really appreciate that you've got 2 extra buttons on the front next to this ladder here to open the back ramp. It's kind of nice to hit the button as you're running out the back because it gives it a chance to actually open. So as you enter up into the crew living areas on the left-hand side, or on the right-hand side here, you've got the 2 beds. Now you do have separate mood lighting in this room as well, and you can actually lock the door, which is a little bit strange. I mean, if you want to lock yourself in the bedroom, I guess you could, but I can't see that being a common thing to do. And I'm just cycling through the different lighting modes that you can have in your bedroom. And then over on the left-hand side, you've got the bathroom access. This is a manual door, so it doesn't automatically open for you, which is not surprising. It also has the lowest mirror I've ever seen in the game, kind of quite shockingly and unusably low. And your typical toilet shower combination. Now up here, you've actually got a food maker. So once that comes into game, you'll be able to get your food here. Got a couple of suit lockers next to that. You've also got a decent gun rack storage. So you've got the 2 normal weapons, really 6 pistols, and the 2 large weapons. So moving up into the cockpit here, really a solo pilot kind of ship. Your second player goes down to the chin turret. So you do actually have access to 6 different laser repeaters here, which is incredibly nice. Now, I'm just a really big fan of all of the MFDs. They sit perfectly on the lower level of your view and give you all of the information you could possibly like. This is a really nice ship to try to fight with, like doing bounties and such. Now, the only thing that I didn't like is it seems almost impossible to power all of your weapons, all of your shields, and still leave something for your engines. And that's really before you have the coolers and life support and all that other stuff that you can actually turn off for now. I just want to talk for a minute or two here about the actual design. So this is an Anvil ship. It's what you would expect from your typical Anvil ship. It's very military focused. It is what it is. There's not a lot of luxuries, not a lot of bells and whistles. But at the same time, it's meant to be a nice, durable, dependable, reliable ship. This is something for me that as a daily driver is incredibly handy. Now, I'll come into it later in the review on why that's not entirely true, but I think it's probably something that they'll end up fixing in the longer term here. You've got the VTOLs to help you get off the ground with all that extra cargo and or vehicles that you're carrying. And it's a nice ship. I mean, it's got great visibility. The ship itself looks functional. It's just not a very fancy ship. Now, as far as the actual specs go, it is a 1 to 2 person crew. 1 person to fly, second person is really your gunner. And engineer, I guess, as well. It's got a current price on the store of $350 US. It is technically what's considered a vehicle dropship. I think it's the only actual vehicle dropship in the game. I don't think it's going to see a lot of use as a vehicle dropship, being that a lot of people don't use vehicles. So, as far as your survivability with this ship goes, I would say it's very good. It's got all of the different things that you need to live, although not as comfortably as some other ships. But for instance, it's a very practical ship. All of your components are located on a separate level that can easily be vented in the case of a fire. Doesn't exist in game yet, but I'm pretty sure that will come in handy later in the game. Your living area is kind of nicely compacted around the pilot seat. Again, it's just everything you need. The bathrooms, the food station, the beds, the shower, everything that you could possibly need in a ship. Now moving into the performance section of our review. At an SCM speed of just over 200 at 203. The maneuverability of the ship is actually great. I find it very nice, and it kind of flows with how it moves, and it moves how you would expect it to. It's not big and clunky. Now, the health pool. This is actually a case where I think the ship needs to be buffed a little bit. It only has a 77,000 health points in the pool. Not ideal. I mean, that's a lot lower than something like the Taurus or the Starlancer Max, which really do kind of fill that same cargo limit or capacity. Speaking of cargo space, it technically has a grid that'll support 180. That being said, I have very successfully put 312 SCU on the grid. Sorry, off the grid. There's a lot of space around it. You can very easily put the boxes 6 SCU wide. You can easily go further back towards the ladder and the crew quarters as well. Now, it's also a very nice cargo grid to use because it's 4 high, which fits mining bags very well. Naturally fits almost any box type. You could tell that CIG has really listened to the feedback, which is funny because this isn't even technically a cargo ship. So moving on to the different components and customizations you can do for the ship. So it does offer 4 different liveries as of the time that it was released that are available in the pledge store. One of which is only available for certain levels of concierge, but there are 4 nonetheless. Now, as far as the different components go, you have 2 size 2 power plants, 3 size 2 coolers, 4 size 2 shield generators with a default HP of roughly 19,000. Now, I would suggest swapping these and upgrading a bit, as it actually leaves a lot on the table. And with that size, there is some other options that you have for sure. The quantum fuel tank is 1.85 SCU. Now, we come into the weapons. This is a combat-focused ship. I mean, it's meant to be dropping into drop zones, right? Got to talk about the weaponry. So the pilot has access to 6 size 3 laser repeaters and 16 size 3 missiles. That gives the pilot a sustained DPS of 1160 with a burst DPS of 3274. Now in that second gunner seat, you actually have a sustained DPS of 852 and a burst of just over 2000 as well. The numbers are all fun and fancy and stuff, but unless you actually know what they mean, it doesn't really help you. This ship is reasonably well armed. For its size, I mean, it's not the best gunship in the game, but you're definitely going to be able to do some of those medium to large bounties without having a lot of trouble. You could probably even go into the larger size bounties if you knew what you were doing and you're a decent pilot about it. The only real downside that I see to this ship as far as the components go, and well, the ship itself, is really the hull strength. At that 77,000, it is a lot less than some of the other competing ships for this. Now moving into the economy of this ship. To me, this ship is a winner. I mean, there's not a lot of mission types in this game that you can't do. At least the lower levels, until you can actually become a little bit more specialized. Like I was just mentioning, it's pretty good for the bounty missions. It would be pretty good for your ambush. It would be pretty good for your patrol missions. It doesn't cost a lot to fly because there really isn't a lot to it. So it's one of those ships that's nice to kind of hop around and just be your daily driver. It's also large enough that you could actually fit a Drake Golem in the back, go do some mining missions, obviously with some spare containers as well, which would be nice and convenient. It's also excellent for its size at carrying cargo, which is probably where I would use it more than anything. Like I say, you can fit over 300 SCU if you're willing to go off-grid, or 180 on-grid. I mean, that is still a pretty large cargo grid for this size of ship. And there isn't really a lot other than the Starlancer Max that fits in the same category at around the 200 mark. You kind of go at the 150-ish mark, and then you jump to more of the 500 mark. So to me, it fits kind of nicely in that little niche area. Now, obviously, I didn't even talk about its intended purpose. This is a vehicle dropship after all. So running things like bunkers, it's kind of a natural fit for it if you go and throw an Ursa in the back. Now, it would be good in some other combat situations when you're playing with larger orcs. Not something I would normally do. Personally, anyways, I know a lot of people do. But you could easily throw a tank or a couple of other ships, ground ships in the back there, and ship an entire group of people out. Then it becomes a normal person dropship, I guess. So to me, it's kind of that nice, all-round, checks pretty much every box you can imagine in the game. And there really isn't anything that this ship can't do. Now, it may not be the master at anything, but it definitely is good in most of the different cases, which is something I really like about it. Taking a look at the community feedback, I think it's important to think about what the other people in the community really think about a ship before you go off and purchase it, because sometimes you can look at the world through rose-colored glasses. So generally, the feedback I would say is very good. This is one of those ships that really surprised the community when it was supposed to come out. Nobody really knew what to expect until the leaks started to come out just before Invictus. Kind of how I like it. I like to be surprised, so I was trying not to pay attention to them, but I knew they were there. Some of the biggest negative feedback is the fact you can't use the paints from the Valkyrie, even though that this is technically a variant. They're not calling it a variant, which means that you have to go and purchase your own skins for it as well. Not the end of the world. Generally, people think it's a little bit on the slow side to respond. The health pool and the shields are not really high enough for its intended purpose. It's not something I would really want to go and drop vehicles into a hot zone for, simply because you tend to get blown up and some very serious damage can happen. Now, as far as the positive feedback, it's got nice firepower, nicely equipped. It's a nicely solo-capable ship. It's not something designed for larger crews to use. But at the same time, when you bring on that second player, it doesn't feel like they're really missing out. There's definitely a place and a purpose for them. Now, the large cargo space is definitely a plus and a fan of the community. And it's the kind of ship that generally people think can hold its own. So now on to my personal feedback about this ship. I really want to love this ship. I really wanted it to be the perfect ship, and I really think that it will be the perfect ship. But I think that there's a couple of major issues that really stop me from loving this and wanting to jump on and pay for it today. The first issue is the fact that the airlock is a death trap, literally. Just in recording the footage for this video, I actually died twice. I climb halfway up the ladder, the airlock closes, it decapitates me, and then I have to go and retrieve my ship. That can get a little annoying. I wasn't playing for long enough that I should have died twice to random bugs like that. Second issue is that the vehicles can actually fall through the back ramp, which is a little bit strange considering that was its designated purpose and the reason it was designed in the first place. And the third is something you actually see on screen right now. So, when I accidentally destroyed that Guardian, the explosion caused some major damage to the back end of the ship. Now that's somewhat understandable, I guess. Not really, honestly, because in order for me to shoot Guardian and make it explode, it would have had to have been under the front of my ship because I was looking down at it at the time. I don't understand why the back end of the ship is damaged. Now that by itself isn't the end of the world. The problem is that with all of the components being hosted in the back, and I think it's mainly actually the two engines in the back right above the ramp, the ship very, very quickly becomes unusable. And again, just in the short time that I was testing the ship, in the couple of days that I had it for free because of Invictus, I found myself stranded 3 times. I don't remember what happened the second time. And the third time, I was running a bounty mission, and a 100i rammed into the back of me. That's a ship that should have barely scratched the paint, not disabled the engines. Now, in all 3 cases, The damage was done to the ship. I would quantum travel for a little bit, and then I would just stop being able to move. I could turn the engines on, but I couldn't move the ship. I couldn't go forward. I couldn't go backward. It was just kind of dead in the water. I would have to actually backspace or log out to go back to the hospital or back to Orison, and then go and retrieve the stuff that I had in my ship. That's a huge negative to me. I mean, if this is going to be my daily driver, I can't be constantly trying to retrieve it. Now, the things I love about the ship. I definitely love that you can overload it. It's nice to have the option to throw that extra 100 SCU of cargo in the ship, just in case you grab a cargo mission that's a little bit too big and you weren't really thinking. It's nice to not have to think about the cargo size boxes because you can fit basically any size cargo boxes that you're going to get in a medium cargo mission. Now, if I'm going to go to a larger cargo mission, I'm obviously going to go with a larger dedicated hauler anyway, but I could very easily fit 2 medium contracts in at the same time in the Asgard, which is a really nice feature, not something I've been able to do in any other ship, the Starlancer Max or the Taurus included, because they're a little bit too fussy on the cargo box sizes. Now, speaking of which, it is really nice that the cargo grid is 4 SCU high. It shows that CIG was definitely listening to us and definitely listening to the feedback on things like the Raft and the Taurus and all those other ships that seem to have a 3 high cargo grid. The Zeus comes to mind. I mean, a brand new cargo ship and it's a 3 high, but all the contracts have 4 high or 2 high, but you can't stack 2 boxes on top of each other. It's nice to be listened to in that regard. So, in conclusion, do you buy it or not? I really struggle with this decision. I actually do. Most ships I either fall in love or don't really love them, and I don't worry about it. This is one of those ships that I want to love. It's got a lot of pros to it. It absolutely does. I love the 4 high cargo grid. I mean, I can go on and on about the things that I love about it, but at the same time, I think that there are some critical issues that would really stop me from using this ship today. So to me, it's one of those ships that I think ideally I would probably wait 2 or 3 months, maybe 2 or 3 patches, for them to actually work the bugs out. So unfortunately, I think it's one of those ships that I'll probably wait and I'll buy in game. And in 2 to 3 months, this will be a phenomenal ship. It really will. But I think I'll find it way too frustrating if I buy it with real money today. Now, that surprises even me because I bought in a lot of ships that I don't even use. I don't use daily anyways. But, I mean, you get decapitated when you climb up the ladder. That's a pretty serious issue that you'd have to work through. And I think I would probably leave it sitting in my hangar for 3 months. Now, that's not to say I wouldn't pay for it with real money in 3 months' time. I absolutely would. I do think it is worth the $350. But I wouldn't necessarily fly it in the next couple of months. So personally, I think I'm going to wait. What are your thoughts? Is the Anvil Asgard a ship that you're going to buy? And what are you going to use it for if you are going to buy it? Do you think it's going to be a decent daily driver? Do you think it's something that you'll actually fly regularly? Or are you actually going to use it for its intended purpose of a vehicle dropship? Let me know in the comments below. I'm actually dying to hear what you guys have to think about it.